Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Hope you're doing really well. Today I want to talk to you guys about 10 different fragrances that are surprisingly pretty good. And these are fragrances that for one reason or another, didn't really have high expectations for when I got them in. Some of these are flankers, some of these aren't, but with pretty much all of these I either had no expectations at all or low expectations. But with each one of them, they're actually really solid. Lots to talk about, let's jump into it. Let's get things kicked off with the cheapie from the house Issey Miyake. Now Issey Miyake has some amazing fragrances, just fantastic scents. A lot of them are better in fall or winter, or at least the fragrances that I'm talking about when I say the amazing fragrances that they have. This one, more for spring and summer. It's a flanker, and the original, I just didn't really love. I thought it was just forgettable. This one took that same DNA, that same idea, and improved upon it. It's L'Eau Super Major d'Issey. Now I know a lot of people are gonna look at that name, well, a lot of Americans, and be like, what? What's a major? Super major? What is that? But this one is really nice, super easy to wear. It's very modern. Actually, some people might smell this and say it smells like almost static or white noise, but in a really, really pleasing way. It's got sea notes and sea salt, cashmere, and cashmere is really what's gonna help push that sort of fuzzy warmth in the dry down of the fragrance. There's also a little bit of smoke in here, gives it some added depth, but it doesn't take it into animalic territory. It doesn't take it into a direction that's gonna turn people off and push them away. And then there's also amberwood in the base, which works perfectly with the cashmere. Again, modern aroma chemicals, and they are heavily used in here. You could almost view this one as a modern take on the aquatic style fragrance. Super easy to wear, people like it, costs next to nothing, and really surprising to me, much better than the original. This next fragrance is also a flanker. This one really is just light years better than the original in my opinion. The original was sort of like a take on Paco Rabanne's Invictus to an extent, but this one is its own thing. It's Azzaro Wanted by Night. This one's got cinnamon, it has mandarin, vanilla, and tobacco in here. This fragrance is a super sexy nighttime fragrance, a great date fragrance, just a great evening fragrance in general. Anything that you're gonna do in the evening, this one is gonna be a great match for. As I said, super sexy, huge compliment puller, big improvement on the original Azzaro Wanted. Azzaro Wanted is fine for a lot of casual situations, but it doesn't really do anything new. This one does. This one is its own fragrance. This is not trying to impersonate anything else, and this one is the one to own out of all the fragrances in the Wanted line. So when this one was announced, I didn't have huge expectations. Again, the original Azzaro Wanted, just kind of doing a play on another very popular fragrance, and when that one came out, a lot of people crapped on it. So when Azzaro Wanted by Night was announced, a lot of people were like, whatever. You know, it's gonna be a cheap Azzaro fragrance, I don't care. And then it dropped and people were like, wait a second. This is actually really good. Up next is a fragrance that I basically just threw into an order. Didn't really think anything about it. It was inexpensive, and I was placing an order at the time from Europe. So I just threw this one in there because I was like, well, I don't have it. It doesn't cost that much, and I'm sure it's not very good. Then it turned out to be a really solid blue fragrance, highly versatile, big compliment puller. This one right here, L'Homme Rojas. This one has blood orange, cardamom, juniper, and tonka as some of the notes in the fragrance. When I first smelled this one, it reminded me a little bit of Dolce & Gabbana's K, the original Eau de Toilette. There's a little bit of a similarity between the two, and really it's the way that the juniper is used. It comes across similarly in here as it does in Dolce & Gabbana K. But in my opinion, this fragrance much better than K. It's much more appealing. It's a little bit more unique. I wouldn't say that this one is super unique, but as far as being just a versatile, people-pleasing fragrance that does not break the bank, this one is very good, and you can use it in pretty much any situation and almost any season as well. So L'Homme Rojas, big surprise, didn't expect anything from it, and then actually pretty good. Up next is a fragrance that's almost forgotten. Nobody really talks about this in the house. It's not really a big house. It's Scent Story, and the fragrance is 24 Ice Gold. And I actually remember when this first came out, there were a few different YouTubers that were kind of excited to get their hands on it, but it seemed like most people in general didn't really care. Now with this one, I didn't expect a whole heck of a lot. I mean, it is 24. It's somehow inspired by the TV show 24, and that just makes no sense to me at all. They have all these different 24 fragrances that really have nothing to do with the show. And I think that nowadays actually Scent Story doesn't even have the 24 license, so they're not making 24 fragrances anymore. At least I think I heard that. This one has bergamot, jasmine, woods, and ambroxan. It is definitely a unisex style fragrance. It actually smells a little bit similar to Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue for women, not Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue for men. That being said, lots of guys wear Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue for women because it works just as well on men as it does women. It's basically a unisex scent. That's what this is too. This one is super refreshing. It does almost have kind of an icy feel to it when you first spray it on. It's just really uplifting, fantastic in warm weather. So 24 Ice Gold, even though it's pretty much forgotten and really never took off to begin with, is actually really good and surprised me when I first got it. This next fragrance is one that I kind of like Lom Rojas just threw into an order because it was very cheap off of FragranceNet, I believe. This one was right around $20. And at that price tag, usually fragrances are horrible, so I wasn't expecting much. And this one actually is very solid. It's from Karl Lagerfeld. It's Bois de Vetiver. This one has mint, it has ambroxan, it's got citrus, and of course, vetiver. I mean, it's right there in the name. This fragrance, a little bit, is a vetiver fragrance for people that are kind of afraid of vetiver. Vetiver has a lot of different facets. It can come across grassy or dry or earthy or smoky or very green. Lots of different ways that vetiver can come across, that vetiver can be used. Here, the vetiver is basically a sparkling citrus, very clean, stripped down kind of vetiver. The vetiver is obviously still here. It's the focal point of the fragrance, but you don't have to worry about it getting challenging at all. This one is not that style of fragrance. This one, like a lot of the ones here, is very versatile. You can use it in many different situations. It's a great office fragrance, a great casual fragrance, a great warm weather fragrance. The citrus, the mint, the ambroxan in here really gives it, like I said, a nice sparkle, this nice effervescence off your skin when you first spray it on. And then you've got that vetiver mixing with the ambroxan once you hit that dry down, giving it some nice masculine depth. Up next, yet another cheapie. This one, when I bought it, you could get, I believe, around 28 bucks for the full presentation, a 100 ml size bottle. Nowadays, at least as of when I'm filming this video, it has risen. It's about $40, I think, 40 or 42. So it is a little more expensive at discounters than when I picked it up, but still yet, it surprised me. It really is kind of a blue fragrance for people that really like ginger, a real emphasis on ginger, and that's right there in the name. Ginger Lover from Azzaro. There's also lime here and vetiver. Now, I've talked on this channel a bunch about how ginger is used in men's fragrances. Ginger, a lot of times, will be paired up with citrus in men's designer fragrances when they really want this effervescent, sparkling, attractive opening, because that ginger works perfectly with citrus. And that's what you have here. The lime is technically a mid note, but you can pick it up right away. But this one really leans more and shifts more of the focus onto the ginger, which is obvious in the name. The ginger here carries on a little bit longer than you would expect in most fragrances of this style. And then once you hit the dry down, it is kind of a basic vetiver, but still clean, nice, masculine, and has a lot of appeal. Ginger Lover, I was expecting to just be basically complete trash. At the price and as kind of a throwaway line from Azzaro, at least that's the way that it's kind of marketed. That's the way that I pick it up. You know, they're not really putting this heavy push into the line. But then I got it and it's surprisingly good. It is basically a budget, versatile fragrance for spring and summer, but done really well. This next fragrance is for people that love green fragrances. It's brisk, a little bit herbal, a little bit biting, but ultimately very green, and I love it. I think it smells fantastic. It is Origami from Loewe. If I butchered that pronunciation, you're gonna have to forgive me. Now, like I mentioned, this one is for people that love green fragrances. If you don't love green fragrances, if you don't like green fragrances, you will not like this, period. You won't, but I love it. This one has bergamot, it's got basil, lemon, rosemary, and vetiver. That's some of the notes in the fragrance. So when you first spray this one on, you have a little bit of that almost old school citrus and herbal opening. So it's gonna remind you of some fragrances of yesteryear, some classics out there, but done in a little bit more of a modern way. That one for springtime is perfect, absolutely perfect. There are some slight similarities in the way that it's done to some fragrances out there like Acqua di Parma Cologne Club, kind of that more, like, again, classical style. I wouldn't say completely in the Italian classical style, but leaning that way. And with that one, I didn't really have high hopes because online people were really kind of, middling on it. People were like, oh yeah, it's okay, it's not too bad. And then I got it in and was actually really, really surprised. That one, much better than I expected. This next fragrance is from the House of Armaf. Yeah, that Armaf. The Armaf that clones everything. Sometimes decently well, and other times horrifically badly, but Armaf, well, pretty much all of you out there know them. This fragrance is from their niche line, and I think that this was the one that was most well received. I did not have high hopes for this. I have purchased a number of Armaf fragrances in the past that have been horrifically bad. I mean, some of them have been, like I said, pretty good, but some have been terrible. And with this one, kind of chuckled when I saw Armaf niche. I was like, okay. But it is this one right here, Armaf niche oud. Interestingly enough, I don't think that oud is an official note in this fragrance, even though it's called Armaf niche oud. Go figure. There's amber in here, there's vanilla, there are spices, no oud. This one though is actually pretty good. Believe it or not, it is not a bad fragrance. It does smell a bit similar to Ambre Sultan from Serge Lutens, which is a great fragrance, but I would say that this one maybe leans a little more into the vanillic side of things and tries to go with a sweeter route of that fragrance's DNA. Now, me personally, I think the Serge Lutens is a better fragrance. Let's not get it twisted, but some people out there will actually prefer this and reach for this over it because they're going for that added vanilla in here, that extra vanilla. So that one surprised me, thought it was gonna suck, and then it was actually pretty good. This next fragrance is an eau de toilette, and the eau de parfum version of this fragrance gets heavily hyped. People love it, and I love it too. I think it's really good. So this one, I just really had no expectations at all. I didn't have low expectations, just no expectations. And that's because the eau de parfum that gets hyped really has nothing to do with this eau de toilette. They're not similar fragrances at all. Similar in name, but not similar in how they smell. Then I got it in, and for the price, blown away. It's this one, Mustache Eau de Toilette. This one has lemon and bergamot, kind of a classic citrus combo in the top. Then you've got lavender and oak moss in here as it dries down. This one is a little bit like Dior Eau Sauvage, the original Eau de Toilette, only much, much, much cheaper. Because at discounters, this one goes for next to nothing, under 30 bucks most of the time, and it's readily available. So this one is gonna give you that kind of classic gentleman, old school vibe. Very clean, easy to wear, sophisticated, great office fragrance. You could wear this formally as well. Now it's not exactly the same as Dior Eau Sauvage, but like I said, it's gonna get you in the same ballpark, same style of fragrance. So this one really surprised me for the price. I mean, the presentation is good, fragrance smells good, a lot to like. And the last one here is one that I reviewed very recently. This one was another cheapie that I picked up, just threw it into an order, didn't expect a whole lot, and then found out it's actually really good, really good. It's Yop Homme Ice, not to be confused with Vanilla Ice. That makes no sense. Vanilla ice. Whoa. Now this one's a little bit confusing. It's Homme Ice. You would think this is gonna be a really refreshing, brisk, kind of summer hot day fragrance, and it's not at all. It's got plum and bergamot in the opening. It's got sandalwood as it dries down, along with tobacco and orange blossom. This one has an interesting opening because you do have that combo of plum and bergamot, which you don't see that much. So you have on one end of the spectrum, this fresh, you know, sweet kind of citric opening, and then you have a more sensual, darker plum, and they're just right there together. As it dries down, it becomes more about that sandalwood. You get little bits of tobacco leaf. It becomes more of a warm, kind of alluring fragrance. Not a really fresh one. It is, though, really good. And for the price, 20 some bucks for 120 milliliters, can't go wrong. Solid fragrance. So there we go. 10 different surprisingly good fragrances. Each one of these, didn't think too much about until I got my nose on them, and then I was like, these are actually solid. These are good. Don't judge a fragrance before you can smell it. Lesson of the day. All right, guys, let me know in the comments below a fragrance that you got in where you weren't really expecting too much, and then you were blown away at how much you liked it. As always, thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for all your support. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. Take care of yourself and your loved ones.